In 2022, Representative Hakeem Jeffries, the Democratic caucus chairman, hammered Republicans during his many press conferences and House floor speeches. The New York Democrat railed against Republicans after the overturning of Roe v. Wade. He specifically called out Senators Murkowski and Collins ahead of a doomed Senate vote to codify abortion rights. Jeffries also lambasted what he described as MAGA Republicans, who he said were, quote, totally out of control. In November, Jeffries easily won re-election to his sixth term in Congress.
Thanks, Chairwoman Lofgren and Vice Chair Cheney for their distinguished leadership on this incredibly important issue. I rise today in strong support of the Presidential Election Reform Act. Our democracy is fragile. Democracy is not a spectator sport. Democracy is not a self-executing proposition. Democracy does not simply run on autopilot. It requires all of us to remain engaged, particularly because we are confronting a diabolical adversary who is determined to undermine the principle of free and fair elections, undermine the rule of law, and undermine the peaceful transfer of power. Certainly, our democracy is not perfect, but it is worth saving. And that is why it's so critically important that we act with the fierce urgency of now to defend the republic against tyranny, protect the principle of free and fair elections, and continue America's long, necessary, and majestic march toward a more perfect union. I yield back. Good morning, everyone. At our caucus meeting today, we were briefed by both Steny Hoyer and Chairwoman Rosa DeLauro about the progress that continues to be made with respect to the continuing resolution. It's our hope and expectation that the Senate will vote in a bipartisan way at some point later on today, and then we will be able to do what is necessary here in the House to keep the government open, to make sure that it can continue to properly function and deliver for the American people, and that we address some of the emergencies that have taken place here in America over the last several weeks, last several months, that require the federal government to act in a decisive way to be there for everyday Americans who are struggling and have been afflicted by disasters. House Democrats are going to continue to put people over politics, fight for lower cost, better paying jobs, and safer communities, and to draw a clear contrast with extreme MAGA Republicans who are out of control, don't believe in reproductive freedom, don't believe in Social Security, don't believe, in many cases, in democracy. We have a vision for the future to continue to be there for everyday Americans, and they continue to put politics over patriotism, to give us nothing but talking points and platitudes devoid of any substance, any vision, any agenda for the American people. And I'll yield to the distinguished Vice Chair. Good morning. It's great to see everyone. Great to be here with two tremendous leaders within the House Democratic Caucus, our Assistant Speaker, Catherine Clark, and our great Vice Chair, Pete Aguilar. We had a wonderful caucus meeting earlier today. We are so thankful for the presence of two new members, Pat Ryan and Mary Patola, who are going to represent their districts incredibly well, fight for Alaska, fight for the people of the Hudson Valley, and continue to work with us to get things done for the American people. There's a big difference at this moment in time between Democrats and extreme MAGA Republicans. Democrats are getting big things done. Extreme MAGA Republicans are totally out of control. We continue to deliver for the American people. We got the American Rescue Plan done, saved the economy, prevented us from falling into a recession, if not worse, put shots in arms, money in pockets, kids back in school, passed the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, creating millions of good paying jobs to fix our crumbling bridges, roads, tunnels, airports, our sewage and water systems, mass transportation systems, ensure clean water in every community, and high-speed internet access. Then, of course, we passed gun safety legislation for the first time in 30 years that will save lives. Stood up for our veterans who served and sacrificed for this country with the passage of the PACT Act. And then we passed legislation, the CHIPS and Science Act, to bring domestic manufacturing jobs back home to middle America and throughout this country for the first time in decades, as opposed to jobs going in the other direction. And of course, finished it off with passage of the Inflation Reduction Act, the most dramatic effort to confront the climate crisis in the history of the world, to put our planet on a sustainable trajectory, lower energy costs, strengthen the Affordable Care Act, lower healthcare costs, and drive down the high price of life-saving prescription drugs for millions of Americans. Democrats deliver for the people. Extreme MAGA Republicans are trying to take away your freedom to make your own reproductive health care decisions, take away Social Security and Medicare. They want to end it in 5 years. And apparently many of them want to take away our democracy. They don't believe in it anymore. Democrats put people over politics, lower costs, better paying jobs, safer communities. Extreme MAGA Republicans are totally out of control. That's the contrast. Vice Chair Pete Aguilar. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for your presence. This is another busy week here in Washington, D.C., in the House of Representatives, as we continue to address the challenges that the American people confront as it relates to our continued effort to lower costs for everyday Americans, to make sure we give every single American an opportunity to experience the great American dream, have a pathway toward opportunity and prosperity, and also defend the freedoms that have long been assumed to be permanent here in America, but which a radical right-wing Supreme Court majority has either taken away in the form of the freedom of women to make their own reproductive health care decisions, or is on the verge of taking away as it relates to family planning and then the right to marry who you want to marry. So we have two distinguished members who are with us today who will speak about those legislative efforts, of course, along with our distinguished vice chair. This week, today, in fact, several appropriations bills will be on the floor. And those bills are not just pro forma pieces of legislation that we have to do as members of Congress as a matter of course. House Democrats, through the appropriations bills, are investing in the creation and preservation of affordable housing, investing in transportation, making sure that the American people can go to or from work, back and forth to visit loved ones, family members, enjoy themselves, visit their houses of worship. House Democrats are investing in transportation. We're investing in the health and well-being of women, infants, and children, and so many other areas. And we expect, unfortunately, that the party of no, Republicans, the other side of the aisle, who never met a visionary idea that they like, is going to vote no. That's a shame.
Our great controller. I'm so thankful for Tommy. You know, the governor is incredibly important, and we're going to make sure she's reelected. The state attorney general is incredibly important. We'll make sure she's reelected. But the controller also watches our finances. He's the one that makes sure that our money's not funny and our change doesn't get strange. So we're thankful for Tom DiNapoli. Now, we're in Brooklyn, and so let's see if we can do this. When I say can't stop, you say won't stop. Can't stop. Won't stop. Can't stop. Won't stop. When I say can't stop, you say won't stop. Can't stop. Won't stop. Can't stop. Won't stop. Is Brooklyn in the house right now? Are you ready to re-elect Kathy Hochul and send her back to the State House? Are you ready to elect Democrats up and down the ticket? Are you ready to make sure that we vote blue in 2022? All across the country, trying to make sure that Democrats keep control of the House of Representatives. And we're going to continue to work on that effort. But we got stuff that we have to do here at home. Important races that we got to make sure go the right way here at home. That's why I'm so thankful that our great former president, Bill Clinton, the big dog, is in the House. That's why you know it's important. But we got to take care of business here. We got to make sure that Kathy Hochul is elected to a full 4-year term. Make sure that her partner, Antonio Delgado, is right there with her. Make sure District James continues to be able to do her great work. Make sure we send DiNapoli back. Make sure we send Leader Schumer back. That's Brooklyn, y'all, the most powerful Democrat in the United States Senate. Because, you know, Democrats deliver for the people. We work hard each and every day, wake up, fight to make sure. This is what drives Kathy Hochul and Chuck Schumer, everybody on the ticket, fighting for working families, middle-class folks, those who aspire to be part of the middle class, senior citizens, young people, veterans, the poor, the sick, the afflicted, the least, the lost, and the left behind. Democrats fight for the people each and every day. And we deliver. I think the D in Democrat, as a matter of fact, stands for deliver. Can I just check the record, y'all? It was Democrats who have brought the country Social Security, rural electrification, Medicare, Medicaid, the Voting Rights Act, the Civil Rights Act, the Fair Housing Act, the Elementary and Secondary School Act, the Higher Education Act, the Affordable Care Act, the American Rescue Plan, the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, the CHIPS and Science Act, the Inflation Reduction Act, and so much more, all brought to you by your neighborhood-friendly Democratic Party. Then we got these extreme MAGA Republicans. They stand for something very different. These people are out of control. They're off the chain, off the easy. Ever since so-and-so was elected in 2016, y'all know who I'm talking about. The birther-in-chief, the hater from Mar-a-Lago, Agent Orange. Y'all know who I'm talking about. Ever since so-and-so was elected, these extreme MAGA Republicans, can I talk straight, have lost their goddamn minds. So we have Democrats who deliver, and then extreme MAGA Republicans who are totally out of control. That's why the stakes are so high. That's why we need all of you to get out there, not just vote, but vote early, vote with others, Vote like your life depends on it, because our quality of life absolutely depends on it. That's why we got to thank County Hope and his whole team, back to Washington, because the difference between us and them is so dramatic. We're trying to move the country forward. They want to turn back the clock. We're fighting to bring people together. They're tearing us apart. We fight for the people. They fight for the privileged few. We fight for working families, the middle class, young people, and seniors. They fight for the wealthy, the well-off, and the well-connected. We put people over politics. They put politics over patriotism. We believe in Social Security and Medicare. They want to take your benefits away. We believe in a woman's freedom to make her own reproductive health care decisions. They want to criminalize abortion care. We believe in unions and the right to collective bargaining. They want to destroy our freedom to negotiate. But here's a news flash, straight out of Brooklyn. We are going to fight like hell to make sure that this is a country and a state that works for everybody. We're going to battle it out. We're going to battle it out. We're going to battle on the streets. We're going to battle in the community. We're going to battle in the barbershops. We're going to battle in the beauty salons. We're going to battle in the churches. We're going to battle in the synagogues. We're going to battle in the mosques. We're going to battle in the schoolhouse. We're going to battle in the courthouse. We're going to battle in the state house. We're going to battle in the people's house. We won't stop battling until victory is ours. And so I'm going to introduce our next guest. Brooklyn has brought the world many things. Am I right, y'all? We gave the world Shirley Chisholm. We gave the world Jackie Robinson. We gave the world Junior's Cheesecake. We gave the world Coney Island. We gave the world Ruth Bader Ginsburg. We gave the world the Notorious B.I.G. And we gave the world the mayor of the greatest city in the world, Mayor Eric Adams, who is doing his job to move this city forward. I present to you the mayor of the city.
Questions?
To all of you, will there be any votes on any other abortion-related measures, such as protecting exceptions of rape and incest or contraception or anything like that? I know the House already passed it, but is there anything else that the House will do?
Well, I'm going to yield to Diana and Judy, but as both of our leaders mentioned, the House has done its job. We're thankful for the vision, the foresight, the leadership of Representative Chu, who introduced this legislation years ago because she saw exactly what was coming. And we were able to move the legislation through the House. We don't want to let the Senate off the hook today. The Senate has a job to do, including senators on the Republican side of the aisle who profess to be pro-choice, who profess to support a woman's freedom to make her own health care decisions, the senator from Maine and the senator from Alaska. Let's see what they do today. And then we'll see what the legislative landscape is that we confront after the Senate weighs in.
We don't have anything to add.
Yeah.
Chairman, can I ask you, Representative Chu and Representative Piquet, you both mentioned that you have a pro-choice majority in the House. There are only 49 Democratic senators in the Senate who say that they support the House-passed bill. Is there room in your party? We obviously have two people, Senator Manchin and Representative Cuellar. Is there room in your party anymore for members who are not pro-choice?
Well, I'm going to yield to
Yeah. You want me to
Diana.
take it?
Yeah.
So over the years, because of their personal religious beliefs, we have had a number of women a number of members of the Democratic caucus who were not pro-choice. And over the years, what has happened after they talked to their constituents and a number of them, Judy, you've probably talked to them too. I've talked to a number of these folks and they have searched their souls and they realized that their public duties to full health care for their constituents, they shouldn't be imposing their personal religious beliefs on their public duties. But there's always room in our party for people who have all different personal beliefs. And it just so happens that these folks are listening to their constituents.
I would just say, look at Senator Casey. Casey has a personal religious belief about abortion, but he has decided he is going to vote for this bill because he knows that this should be a decision made between a woman and her doctor, that this is a private decision. And Senator Casey should not be making that decision for that woman, nor should Marco Rubio or Ted Cruz. It should be a decision made by that woman, and that is what Senator Casey is respecting.
Thank you.
Congressman Jeffries, on Congressman Cuellar, how do you defend to abortion rights supporters your continued support for him, given that he was the one Democrat to vote against the Women's Health Protection Act, and given that it's a Democratic district, he has a pro-choice challenger? Why is supporting incumbents more important than abortion rights?
I have 100% record when it comes to supporting reproductive freedom, going all the way back to my time in the legislature. I've served in public office for 16 years. My record speaks for itself.
Wondering if you have any reactions to the inflation numbers today, 8.3% year over year, 0.3% month over month. Any thoughts on that?
Well, as President Biden has indicated, we are going to work and focus like a laser beam on dealing with the inflationary pressures that the American people are experiencing in terms of food prices, certainly in terms of gas prices, and every other day-to-day kitchen table pocketbook issue that Democrats work on, Republicans talk about, but do nothing about. And as my grandmother used to say, the proof is in the pudding. And if you look at the Biden record on the economy, he inherited one that was on the brink of complete and total collapse, perhaps an economic circumstance worse than the Great Recession, had Democrats not acted decisively. But with President Biden's leadership, Speaker Pelosi, Leader Schumer, Judy Chu, Democrats on both sides of the Capitol, we acted decisively. We passed the American Rescue Plan. We saved the economy, put money in pockets, shots in arms, kids back in school, and laid the foundation for a strong economic recovery. More than 8 million good-paying jobs created during President Biden's first 16 months in office, a record. Fastest rate of economic growth in 40 years. Unemployment down to pre-pandemic lows of 3.6%. Wages have increased for the first time in 40 years in a meaningful way. And all of that was accomplished by also reducing the deficit by more than $350 billion in President Biden's first year. We're on track for a deficit reduction to exceed $1 trillion this year. So yes, there's more work that needs to be done. President Biden has already indicated that we're focused on doing the work, lowering costs for everyday Americans, and Democrats will continue to deliver.
COVID aid package is going to start in the House now after it stalled out in the Senate and was separated from Ukraine. Do you expect that supplemental to be a House Democratic product or a four corners negotiation, and how soon do you think it could get moving to the floor?
Well, I think that question is probably best answered by Speaker Pelosi. We always endeavor to find common ground, have a four corners agreement whenever and wherever possible. Certainly in the Senate, that is necessary in order to get something over the finish line because of their particularized rules. In the House, certainly we always hope that our colleagues will join with us on the other side of the aisle to decisively act to continue to try to crush the COVID virus and end this pandemic once and for all in a meaningful way. But that remains to be seen what my colleagues on the other side of the aisle will do. But we certainly will need a some form of bipartisan agreement eventually emerging from the Senate. Go back to this side.
Thanks, Congressman. The party has been very clear. It's important to hold this vote because you want to get everybody on the record. And as Congresswoman Chu said, it's also a way to show your voters, mobilize them, show that you are fighting back. To what extent do you think holding this vote might have the opposite effect and maybe be demoralizing, because it is a reminder of the limits of your narrow majority?
Yeah, thanks for the question. I'm going to yield to Judy Chu, who's a champion of this legislation.
I think if anything, it will galvanize the voters. I don't see it being something that will suppress them. It will activate them more to see how important it is to get involved in the elections, which are just around the corner. And in fact, primaries are occurring all over the place. Already, candidates are being asked about their abortion stand. I've seen a total change in the way the elections are being processed, even as of this last week. And this is on not just the federal level, it's on the state and the local level. In my state of California, they decided immediately to put a constitutional amendment on the ballot to uphold the right to an abortion. So it's changed the landscape totally. And I expect more of these kinds of decisions and changes to go on moving forward. And every candidate now is having to decide how they will answer the question of choice. And it's going to be very, very interesting, especially in the seats that are swing seats.
I just add the fight to preserve the constitutional protections that are in Roe v. Wade had been settled law and precedent, even according to many of the now justices who apparently have changed their position. First opportunity they've gotten. This is a fight for liberty. It's a fight for freedom. It's a fight for democracy. And whenever we've been in fights like that in the past, we don't always get the decisive result initially, but you continue to make progress, march toward a more perfect union, and eventually get there. The first time civil rights legislation was brought to the floor was not in 1964 with the 1964 Civil Rights Act. That wasn't the first time civil rights legislation was brought to the floor. There was a concerted effort to build up to that moment, often led by former Congressman Adam Clayton Powell, who tried and tried and tried again. Eventually, they got there. Hopefully, we can get it done today in the Senate. But even if we don't, it's not the end. It's not even the beginning of the end. It's only the end of the beginning of a fight that we will win to protect a woman's freedom to make her own healthcare decisions. Last question.
The Senate on Monday passed unanimously a bill that would provide additional protections to the families of Supreme Court justices amid these protests over Roe. Are you supportive of that legislation, one, and is there a plan to bring it to the floor now?
Yeah, I haven't seen the legislation yet. Look forward to reviewing it. Steny did not bring it up today in terms of pending legislation that's before the House this week. I assume the appropriate committee will review it, make their recommendations, decide how to act, perhaps refer it out, and then the caucus will have an opportunity to decide what to do with it then.
Do you think it's justified? Merited based on
Haven't reviewed the legislation, but I certainly think that all public servants, people who step forward, whether you're in the Article 1 legislative branch, the Article 2 executive branch, the Article 3 judicial branch, deserve to make sure that their safety and security, particularly of that of their families, are protected. And so we'll have an opportunity to review the particulars of the legislation. I haven't, but I certainly support the notion that public servants should be protected in the strongest way possible at all times. If anyone believes in that, it's House Democrats, who were almost overrun by a violent mob of insurrectionists on January 6th. If anyone believes in that, it's us. But we'll take a look at the particulars of the legislation and then decide how to act. Thank you, Judy, for your tremendous leadership. Thank you, everyone.